That's a very interesting question because actually Zurich, as we know, it's probably on the top three most expensive cities in the world.
Mm,
But it's also a bit of taboo to talk about salaries in Switzerland.
okay.
However,
Well, hello and welcome to Expats Everywhere. If you could tell us your name, where you're from, and a little about yourself.
hi, I'm Hugo. I'm from Lisbon. I was born and raised in Portugal. I studied architecture actually in Porto for 5 years in the Faculty of Architecture of the university over there. And I left Portugal quite a long time ago, back in 2009, where I lived a bit everywhere. I lived in Italy for a year while I was studying as well. And I lived in the UK. I was working there for 3 years. I also lived in the Middle East in Abu Dhabi. I was working there for a year or so. And I've been in Switzerland for the past 5 years now.
Okay, well, this is really great timing for us because on our city guides, which we've been running a series in 2020 about great expat cities by the alphabet, we're coming to the end of the year, and Zurich was voted as the city that people wanted to hear about for the letter Z. And here we have an interview from Hugo about Zurich. So let's jump into talking about Zurich. What is it like working in Zurich and Switzerland?
Well, Zurich is a very interesting city because it's small. It's around 400,000 inhabitants. It's surrounded by mountains, hills, lakes, and rivers. So if a person really likes to enjoy the nature, it's a really nice place to do it. Because during summer, and that's the best time of the year for me, because the weather gets actually really warm, up to 35 degrees Celsius. So you can swim on the lake or on the river. So actually my office used to be next to the lake. So during lunchtime, I used to take my backpack and go to the lake for a swim. I could actually have a shower there, and I would eat a sandwich or a salad by the water, and it was a very enjoyable time. And I used to work from 8:30 to 6 p.m. At 6 p.m., we still have light, so we can still go out and have a swim up until 8 p.m. and then dinner time. Right? Winter is a bit different because winter is very gray and extremely cold. Actually, it doesn't snow a lot in the city. It snows a bit more outside in the mountains. So it's just a bit too gray, actually. But the best part is that during the weekends, if we take a train, we can just go up the mountain, and up the mountain we'll find blue skies normally.
Oh, okay.
You'll find snow and blue skies. It's perfect combination. So that would be the best part of winter time.
Okay. Is it common for people to do what you do in terms of during work, take a little break, go out, enjoy the nature, and then go back to work?
Yes, it is, especially if one works next to the river or the lake. It's very, very common. But if one works a bit further off and it takes a bit a long time to get to the lake, you don't see that many people. Actually, it's very common to see people taking their laptops and working from the lake bar, from the bars by the lake.
Wow.
You can find a lot of people in swimming shorts, swimming trunks, and just keeping on working outdoors. And that's wonderful if someone can do that.
Wow, that's incredible. No, that sounds like a great little workspace. Well, if you could tell us what kinds of jobs are available in Zurich, especially for English-speaking expats.
Yeah. For an expat, there's a lot of jobs in IT. I found Google as a massive campus over there, and I think I've heard Amazon is also starting over there, but I'm not entirely sure about that. But I know from friends and close contacts, there's a lot of jobs available in IT. Another sector that is very big in Switzerland is pharma, but pharma is not very big in Zurich though. You find more jobs probably in Basel, and that's 1 hour outside of Zurich. It's the third biggest city, but also many people live in Zurich and work in Basel or vice versa. So it's not that far away. Other jobs that you probably find is in banking and insurance for English speakers. But besides those sectors, and I think those are the core sectors of Switzerland, especially in the German side of Switzerland, I don't see a lot of jobs going on there for English-speaking expats.
All right, well, that gives us a bit of background on types of jobs and what your job looks like. Let's kind of shift gears and talk a little bit about the financial implications because we know that Switzerland and Zurich in particular is a bit expensive. What's the minimum salary a single person and maybe a couple needs to make to live a decent standard of life there?
That's a very interesting question because actually Zurich, as we know, it's probably on the top three most expensive cities in the world. And it's also a bit of taboo to talk about salaries in Switzerland.
Okay.
However, the government has actually a link that I don't recall which is, but it's probably easy to Google, where we can find us the average salary. But with a master degree, I believe 100K per year, so 100,000 Swiss francs, it's very similar to the dollar, would be it would be a very interesting salary to live with. It'd be okay to live with and also save a bit at the end of the year.
Okay, great. Well, we'll find that link. We'll put it in the description section below so people can check out what the averages are in different industries. So you're talking about 100K Swiss franc. How much of that can you save and what kind of lifestyle can you live?
I think Switzerland is one of those countries where the 1/3 rule of paying for the rent, living normally, comfortably, and saving actually applies. You can actually save 1/3, spend 1/3, and pay your rent with another third.
Okay.
So probably you could save around 30K per year.
I think that's great. I mean, there are a lot of people that we speak to in these types of interviews, and they're like, yeah, you can't really save any money. So 30K, which is comparable right now to the USD, like we said, that's great.
Yes, but it's easier if you live if you live with a partner, if you share a rent. Just a single person or a married person and just one of them working, the 30K would probably not be applied. It would be much more difficult, actually.
Okay.
Yes.
Would you recommend that someone that's moving there and trying to live alone, or maybe they're the only income earner in the family, how much do you think that they should be earning?
Probably 120K as a minimum. Yeah, especially when there's when a couple has children, and then the expenses go up the roof. The childcare is very expensive, and there's also healthcare costs. So we don't have a national health system like in the UK and in Portugal, in Switzerland. In Switzerland, healthcare is private, so that's a big part of a person's salary, actually. If there's only one person working in the family and needs to pay for 2, 3, or 4 health insurances, then this 30K probably won't apply of savings.
Okay, so you bring up an interesting point there about the healthcare, and we're going to get to the healthcare in a minute. But I do want to ask you if a part of the salary or a part of the benefits of the salary is private healthcare. Does that exist or no? Do you have to shop for your own healthcare?
You have to shop for your own healthcare. However, it's mandatory. So you cannot live there like a person. Actually, no one can live in Switzerland without healthcare. Actually, when we move to Switzerland, we are given 3 months to give proof that we have a healthcare provider, and it's not like we can just wait 3 months and start to pay at the third month. No, we have to pay everything from the date of registration in Switzerland. So yes, so that's actually quite a huge cost.
Okay, now that's really good to know, and that actually leads us to the next question, which is what are the startup costs like there? What are the things that people need to consider now that they are excited about moving to Zurich? Bags are packed. What types of things are they going to have to watch out for?
Well, it's very hard to find an apartment. It's actually extremely, extremely hard. Yeah, so normally we need to have 2 months of rent up front. Actually, it's not rent up front. It's actually a deposit, but it amounts to 2 rents plus 1 rent for that month that we move in there, and plus healthcare costs. So I would say that a normal rent in Zurich, and I'm being gentle here, would be probably around 2,500 Swiss francs per month.
Okay.
But for a 1-bedroom apartment, and can go up to 3,500 or even more. So I would say 3 times this. For 2 times as deposit plus 1 rent, and then around 400 Swiss francs per month for bottom line health insurance. Can go up to 500, 600 per month, and just normal living expenses. And the first few months, if a person really wants to save a lot of money, they can go along with probably to around 2,000 Swiss francs for groceries and so forth. So I would say on the safe side, probably around 10K would be good.
Okay, great. And is that for singles and for couples? Both would need about 10K, about the same?
Well, the difference for couples would be probably around 2 or 3K more.
Okay.
To account for groceries and healthcare costs as well.
Oh, okay, perfect. No, that's a great answer. So tell us, you talked a bit about the weather earlier. So how should someone pack, and then what is kind of the weather like there in Zurich?
Well, a very good thing about weather in Zurich is that we have actually really defined seasons.
Perfect.
However, winter is super long. Winter probably starts in, and I'm not joking, probably end of August some years.
Okay.
Where it starts to get cold. September, we can have some sunny days as well and can get up to maybe 15 degrees depending where on the country. But I would say cold weather would start end of August, all up to beginning of June. And you'll need gloves, scarf, really good jackets, really good winter coat, boots, and some hiking boots as well, because on the weekends people still can go hiking during winter. But then spring is short. So then we are having longer and longer summers there. Since I moved there 5 years ago, actually summer has been increasing in size drastically. So we can get up to 35 degrees for 2 or 3 months out of the year. During July, probably June, July, August, beginning of August mostly.
Nice.
And in between seasons, it's very rainy as well.
Okay. So how should someone pack? Are there things that people should bring there because you can't find in Zurich, or can you pretty much find anything you need there?
You can pretty much find everything you need there. The only difference is that to the rest of Europe is that it's extremely expensive. So most people go to Germany and Italy and France to shop, or they buy online, because the same clothes in Switzerland and in everywhere else in the EU might be 4 or 5 times more expensive in Switzerland.
Wow.
Yeah.
So are there specific things that you recommend people should bring, or just clothes in general?
Well, yes, the two should definitely bring the clothes they already have, right? But if they really want to go on a shopping trip, we are 3 hours away from Milan with the train.
Okay.
And Germany is just right there, like it's 1 hour, 1 hour and a half as well with the car. So people can pretty much buy everything. And also in Switzerland, I mean, not everything is expensive. Generally, things are more expensive, but we can find some good deals sometimes.
What items are particularly good deals?
Well, probably Swiss watches.
Okay.
Yes, locally produced watches. They are slightly cheaper in Switzerland, and also electronics, because we have a really good VAT. It's 7.7%, and that's much cheaper than the rest of Europe, where I think the average is around 20% right now around Europe. So yeah, so for example, mobile phones and other electronics are slightly cheaper in Switzerland.
Okay, great. Well, let's shift gears. Let's talk about safety. Do you think that Zurich is safe, and do you feel safe on a personal level?
Yes, generally I do. It's yes, because it's also the cities are small, so you don't see a lot of petty crime. Sometimes you can see a bit of aggressive people on the streets when they drink a lot in the bar areas. And that I've seen before, but generally speaking, I feel it's a safe country.
Okay, great. Well, tell us, how do you meet people, and what can you do for fun?
Well, as an expat, I think the best place to meet people, it's on the German course.
Okay. Okay.
This in Zurich, yes. So I've been friends with people I met in my German courses back in 2015, and we still keep in touch. And then besides that, there's a lot of sport teams as well. I played touch rugby for a while, but unfortunately I didn't continue. But it's a very social group, especially because most of them are expats and they would like to meet friends. And besides that, I'm a really I love board games. So there's a couple of board games cafes, and we meet a lot of friends on Saturdays and Fridays to just stay in, drink a glass of wine, and play some board games as well.
Okay, great. Well, I have a couple follow-up questions here. The first one is about board games. Hopefully I don't bore people with this question, but is Settlers of Catan popular? Or Settlers of Catan? I don't know how people pronounce it.
Yes,
Okay.
I believe it is. At least I own it.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Awesome.
I play a bit.
Great. So my next question is a little more serious. You talked about going to German class. So that leads me to ask the question about English. Is English widely spoken there? How big is the demand for English speakers to learn German to kind of fit into the workplace and to fit into everyday life?
Well, as an expat, normally we would work in international companies. So international companies, it's not expected for people to speak German because sometimes even the official language of the company would be English. I believe German is helpful to go around. However, Switzerland is a four-lingual or even more country because we have French, we have Italian, we have Romansh that fortunately as a Portuguese I actually can understand because it's the same root and it's actually a bit similar to my own language. But the issue in the German side is that every community has their own dialect. And I've heard from them that sometimes it's even harder for them to understand each other. So German, being an official language, is actually sometimes not used in the workplace. Because if you go to Swiss companies, they will speak Swiss between themselves. And that's a whole different world. So I would say it's interesting to know German more to go around and talk to people on the streets when we need to.
Okay. Were you required to have a visa? What's the visa process like there?
Yeah, as an EU citizen, it's a bit different for a third country. For example, as Canada and the US would be,
right?
Because there's this agreement between Switzerland and the EU. It's not as a Portuguese citizen. I'm an European Union citizen, right? So before I could live in the UK without a visa, but I can still live in the other 27 countries without a visa. Mm-hmm. For Switzerland, is a bit different. We need to have a proof that we can, as an European citizen, right? We need to prove that we can support ourselves in Switzerland. And it's just a bit of more bureaucratic process. And for me, it was actually very easy because I moved there because of my partner. I already had an address and I already had a job. So this process was actually very straightforward.
Great.
I was one of the lucky ones.
Yeah, no, that's great. All right, so we're getting back to the healthcare question. Now, I'd like to know, how is the healthcare? It is private, but how is the healthcare? Are you treated well? Would you feel comfortable getting a procedure done there?
Yes, I am actually. I think doctors in general would speak good English. I never felt complication like explaining my issue to my problems to them, and I actually had a surgery there, a small surgery a couple of years ago. It was everything very, very easy. Actually, I think Switzerland regarding healthcare, it's really good. But just in consideration that it's actually very expensive.
Right.
But I would feel very comfortable in going to a doctor. Actually, one of my doctors was British, and it makes it even easier just to have a normal conversation.
Right. So true. So would you say that the healthcare there is expensive beyond what you just pay for your insurance? So if you have a procedure done, then do you have to pay a huge bill because of that, or is it wrapped up in the insurance costs?
Well, it depends. It really depends on the type of insurance. There's the basic insurance, mm-hmm. and then we have additional insurance. I have additional insurance. I like to feel safe.
Yep.
So I work on my desk the whole day. So sometimes I start to have a pain here in my shoulder. I can just go to the physiotherapy, and the insurance would cover 90% of those costs.
Okay.
No questions asked. So that's actually pretty good, right? Mm-hmm. But I would still have to pay 10% of everything. Besides the monthly fee that I need to pay, the monthly premium I need to pay for the insurance, you can also choose if the first 300 Sorry if I'm mistaken, but I'm trying to remember
Sure.
if it's 300 the minimum, 900 up to 2,500 Swiss francs. Those first value is covered by us and not by the insurance. So if I want a cheaper insurance, I could just tell the insurance company that the first 2,500 Swiss francs are paid by me. However, that's really easy to to get to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the costs are so high, right?
Yes.
Tell us, do you think that Zurich and Switzerland in general is a good travel hub? Why or why not?
Well, it's good in the sense that it's actually super central.
Hmm.
So we are, as I said before, it's 3 hours away from Milan by train. And I think it's probably easier now because they opened a couple of tunnels. So if I would say 2 hours 20, it's not far off from the truth. And the trains, you can get a train every hour to Milan. You can also go to Austria very easily or to France very easily, even to Germany as well. However, we need to consider that also going back to costs, trains and planes are super expensive from there.
Mm.
So Zurich airport taxes are super high. So as we in European Union, you can fly sometimes for 30 euros or even less. From Zurich, it's very hard to find a flight that would cost you less than 250, just a
Wow.
1 hour flight. We need to expect if we fly from Zurich, we need to spend much more than from another airport. However, from Basel, that's 1 hour away, right? The airport is already in French territory, and you can fly with EasyJet out from there, and that's much cheaper. However, there's the consideration that we need to pay the train tickets over to Basel, and
Right.
that's on probably around 100 francs return ticket.
Okay. Well, listen, we wrap up every interview with this question. So I'd love to know from you, Hugo, what are the pros and cons to living in Zurich?
Well, the pro is definitely the nature. I think it's an amazing place if you love to hike, because you can go and check all those mountains and glaciers and go to the ski resorts, and that's actually quite nice. It's also super central. So if you don't mind spending a bit more, you can actually travel around very easily and also to different countries by plane. Regarding cons, if you probably don't need very active social life, it would be actually an okay place because it's not Switzerland is just not known for being very social. So that's something that I would compare to other countries where I lived. And that's the con I have about living in Zurich. It's just a slower social life going forward.
Okay. That's not bad. Those aren't too many cons there. Hugo, thank you so much. Guys listening, expats and travelers, if you are interested in Zurich, we also have a video that's coming out on the 31st of this month. So on December 31st, just before we bring in the new year in 2021, we have a city guide about Zurich, so you guys can check that out. We want to thank Hugo for the interview today, telling us about Zurich. We appreciate it. Thanks for telling Expats Everywhere about Zurich.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.